1 plus 1 equals 2. Or does it? Alright, enough with the Vsauce impressions, but seriously, let's take a closer look at this classic and seemingly basic equation. Is 1 plus 1 really equal to 2? Or is something missing from our logic? Let's look at a simple example. First off, meet Alice. Now, take a second. Count the number of people on your screen. You're probably thinking, easy, that's one. And yes, you'd be absolutely right. Now, say hello to Bob. Take another count. Two people on the screen, right? Simple math. 1 plus 1 equals 2. But wait a second. If Alice is 1, does that mean adding Bob makes exactly 2? Think about it. If 1 plus 1 is the same as 2 times 1, we would need 2 Alices to truly say we've got a pair. But instead, we have Alice and Bob, two different people. Is that really the same as two identical Alices? Or does this simple math miss something bigger? Maybe 1 plus 1 isn't as straightforward as we thought. Let's take a closer look and figure this out together. First off, let's take a journey back in time, as we are far from the only people to have wondered about this problem. We are heading to ancient Greece to meet one of the greatest philosophers of all time, Plato. Now, Plato had an interesting take on numbers. He saw them as an absolute, unchangeable truth, existing entirely independent from the physical world. According to him, everything in the universe fell into two categories: the material and the immaterial. The material world is everything we can see and touch: your dog, your cat, your own body. But numbers, they belong to the abstract, immaterial world. They exist beyond the physical, untouched by reality. Let's explore that with a simple example. Look at this blue sky. How many clouds do you see? Two, right? So 1 plus 1 equals 2. But suddenly, the wind starts blowing, making those two clouds slowly drift towards one another, finally merging into one. Suddenly, 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2 anymore. It equals 1, although maybe a bigger one. If someone were to start watching this video right now, they'd only see a single cloud. Yet we know there were two before. This is where Plato's thinking comes in. Numbers like 1, 2, or even 1 plus 1 don't depend on what happens in the material world. They exist as their own truth, separate from the physical things they might represent. So while in real life 1 plus 1 could become 1, in the abstract world of numbers, 1 plus 1 will always equal 2. It's a reminder that our understanding of math doesn't always match up perfectly with the way things play out in the real world. However, Plato's own student, Aristotle, another renowned philosopher, disagreed with him on the nature of mathematics. While Plato saw numbers as abstract truths or objects existing beyond our world and maybe beyond our understanding, Aristotle had a very different view. He argued that numbers aren't some otherworldly concept floating out there in the realm of ideas. No, numbers are how we see them, and they help us in describing the world around us. Taking a look at our clouds example again. According to Aristotle, at one moment there were two clouds, and in another there was only one. Simple as that. Numbers, to Aristotle, aren't objects in some mystical realm. They're more like adjectives, describing the world in a way that makes sense to us. Let me give you another simple example to illustrate this fact. Consider the human body. Then take a look at this statement. Every human has two eyes. Now, according to Aristotle, this too isn't some abstract or mystical concept, but rather just an adjective, which helps us define real world objects, such as in this case, eyes. So, in Aristotle's view, numbers are deeply connected to the material world. They don't exist on their own, but instead are part of how we understand the things around us. This view, held by Plato and his followers, is referred to as Platonism, whereas the view held by Aristotle and his followers is referred to as human centered, as it rejects the notion of infinity, embracing the finite way in which humans work. These contrasting views, held by Plato and his own student Aristotle, just highlight the deep nature of mathematics and all its branches. But what does all this mean for the big question? Does 1 plus 1 equal 2? Well, the answer is it depends. For an average person, the answer would be yes, absolutely. 1 plus 1 equals 2. And that's the way it should be, as this is the way in which our world works, how we count objects, and how we make sense of things around us. But math isn't always that simple. Consider the binary digits, for example, where you only have either 1 or 0. There, 1 plus 1 equals 0 and not 2, as the number 2 doesn't even exist in the binary system. And it's not just binary, any number system that excludes the number 2 will give us a different result. Taking a look back to our clouds example, there also 1 plus 1 did not, in fact, equal 2, but it just gave us a bigger 1. So, where does that leave us? Well, in certain mathematical and philosophical systems, 1 plus 1 might not always equal 2. It can vary, like in binary, where 1 plus 1 equals 0, or in the case of our merging clouds. But for most practical purposes and for how we experience the world, 1 plus 1 equals 2. It's the foundation of everyday math. Still, if you're looking for the cold hard proof, it's been mathematically proven. And here it is. Now, I won't dive into the full proof, mainly because it's too long, and already the theorem leading up to it spans hundreds of pages. But here's the shortened version. The proof basically revolves around the set theory, and it goes like this. Let's say if you have two disjoint sets, let's say set A with an element x and set B with an element y, then the union of these two sets contains exactly two elements, x and y. In other words, this demonstrates that 1 plus 1 equals 2. It's a very simplified way of explaining how combining two separate things results in 2. But the actual proof from the book that it comes from, Principia Mathematica, goes much deeper. And the reason that it takes so long to establish this is that the book builds everything from the ground up, starting from the most basic principles and working its way to this conclusion. It's an incredibly detailed journey to arrive at what seems like a simple truth. Anyways, that was all she wrote, folks. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I did making it. This is AD from Silverlight Studio signing off. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching, keep exploring, and until next time.